All right, welcome everyone for the second session. In the previous session, let's quickly revise what did we do. We kind of saw two very basic APIs from ChatGPT. One is chat responses API, where we need to send the data as a post HTTP method, and we can get a response for whatever queries we do. This is chat responses API. Second is chat completions API. For that, we need to generate an API token or API key. How to do that, we saw it in the previous session, and then this is pretty much we covered how this API works and how does it respond. So generally, when we make a call to this particular API, it returns a JSON in this particular format. But most of the time, what we are interested in just this part, right? So where this is when we want to parse the output of this particular JSON, what do we have to do? We have to look into this object. So in the whole object, we have choices, JSON object. We need to first go there, and all these things we need to do in today's session. So first we'll take a look at it. So in this bigger JSON, we have a smaller JSON that we need to reach out to, which is choices. It contains an array. So in that, we need to go towards the array, the object with index 0, which is the very first object here. Then in that array, we need to go inside the first JSON. And in that JSON object, we need to go to another JSON object, which is messages or message. And in this particular message JSON object, we have a string called as content. So when we get the output, basically when we want to get the output from this particular query, we need to parse this particular file in this particular fashion. Okay, how to do it, we'll see. We'll also try to make it in a way it's useful in our day-to-day thing. So what we can do essentially is, let's say we have some logs that we want to send it to ChatGPT, and we want it to ask to go through the logs and tell me the clicky text from this particular logs. So let's say we have some file. It's called as test logs txt, and I can quickly copy this one. I have some sample logs here. So these are like standard test ng assertions where we can see one of the tests is constantly failing. So we will pass this log to ChatGPT and we'll ask him to do the research and tell us what are the fake tests. Okay, so let's go to the framework, or not the framework, but just coding part. Okay, this is a very basic structure. I already told you to download JDK and one IDE, preferably IDEA, IntelliJ IDEA IDE, and do a basic setup with some rest assured, testng, JSON path, XML path, Jackson, stuff like that. So all you need to do is, if you do not have any setup like this, all you need to do is first open the IntelliJ, go to new project, then select Maven here, select JDK 12, give 21, sorry, select JDK 21, provide any name, whatever name you like to your project. And then if you go next, it will create, it will ask you to basically select a Maven archetype. You can just select anything. You can just select the first one. And then once a Maven project is created, just copy paste this part from this one, from properties, whatever I think I have sent you from properties onwards. So properties and all the dependencies and all the way through build plugins. So if you set this and then go to your project, Maven, and build your project, generate sources and get your sensors, that thing if you do, then it will build the project for you. Okay. Once you do that, then in the project, you will see source main Java. Over there, you can create a package. I have created this package com.dz, and you can call it anything. In the resources, we want to create a file. Not necessarily it is not required, but generally we keep such things inside resources. Not a mandatory thing, you can keep it anywhere. But for now here, what I have done is I've created this test logs file, which we want to feed to ChatGPT inside the resources. So what we will do now is we'll simply go and create one Java class. We can call it anything, say AI, something like that. AI application tests analyzer, something like that. Uh, Maybe I'm doing some spelling mistake, but not a big thing. So what we want to do there is in here, we need a couple of things. First is we want a main method so that we can run it. So we'll do public static void and main. Okay. And also we need a method where we can pass these values to our analyzer, and it can um, receive the data and return a response. So we'll create that method also. So we'll say public static, and I'm creating static because we should be able to call the methods right over here, but you can remove static and pretty much use it everywhere. So we want a response in the form of string. So we'll do string and we'll say something like the analyze test logs with AI. And we want to send the logs via a string. So basically what we're going to do, whatever data we receive in this particular string test output, we will read it inside a string and we'll pass it to this file over here. Okay. We'll create another method. And to get rid of this error, I'll just say for now return this thing. All right. So we'll create another method where we should be able to read the test logs. Now we will say public, and it should be able to return the log. So we'll say public string, and we need to add the static as well. Read logs file. Okay, I'm just creating a simple skeleton. And if you want, you can pass the path over here. I'm just going to get the path right over here. So we'll say string. Path of the file is simply we can do right click, go to copy path. Let's say you want to get this particular thing passed from the root. So this is the path of my file. So all we need to do is need to read the file. And what's the error here? Okay, you still need a return this thing. So what we are doing basically here is we want to get the data from a file, start reading a file. So I got a path. Then we are going to read the file. That file we are going to return as string to AI logs analyzer, and we want to pass it in this particular fashion. So when we pass the file over here in the content, we are just providing a simple question, but in the content, we will pass our actual uh, logs that we receive from the file. System prompt, then we'll have user prompt. This is in the form of a JSON array that we are passing to this particular uh, JSON string. So two JSON strings we want to pass, or like JSON objects we want to pass. One is this, another is this. So let's create another method where we can create basically this body in a separately. We can also combine it with the main method, but it's easy if we have it in a separate. Okay, so let me click it here, and let's say we want to create another method called as public, and it returns a JSON object. So it's static. It returns a JSON object, and let's call it as get uh, JSON body for our call. Okay, what does it need? It needs two prompts. One is system and another is user. Right? It needs two things. One is system, user, and this model also. Okay, what's the model that you want to use? Let's add that also. Okay. So third thing also it needs as a model. What's the ChatGPT model you want to use? Now we have a main JSON object. We have a main JSON object where we have model as this, but in the second parameter or whatever second thing of this object, we have two JSON objects which are being passed as an array. So we need to create that thing. So let's first start creating that thing there. So let's begin with the array first. Let's get that array created. Say JSON array. Well, let's call it as message because that's the name of the array. Like you can call it anything. It's equal to new JSON array. This array has two uh, basically types of messages. One is system, one is user. And what are those? Those are objects, right? See, we are creating this portion now. What is this? This is an array. This thing is an array. So we created that object. Currently it is empty. We want to put two things in that array. One is role and content. Another is role, user, and content. So to create that, what are these? These are two JSON objects. So we need to create two separate JSON objects, right? So first JSON object would be, we need to just create. First is, let's say, user. User prompt is nothing but, oh, say system. Let's start with system prompt. New JSON object, and then now we need to start adding things. System prompt dot put. What do we want to do? What's the name? Role. What is the role? System. Okay. Second thing in the system prompt, put uh, basically content. What is the content? Let's say in this case we want to say consider you are a expert automation engineer. Okay, something like that. You are an expert automation. You analyze this test logs file and find or like report likely tests. Am I missing the spelling here? Okay, what is this? What is the spelling of flaky? That's right. A-K-E-Y. Okay, sorry about that. Flick it. Okay. Not E, just Y, sorry. Analyze this test logs file and report flaky tests. Okay, that's my prompt. Then this is the first thing what we did. System. Now we'll do same thing for user. Okay. And actually, this I would just save it over here from wherever we pass. So let's say I'm passing it from basically here. So let me say create a string called as system prompt, something like this. Over here, it will simply will pick the value from here. So user can basically change it, and then we can create it as a generic method. So it will, whatever system prompt we provide over here for this method, it will be picked here. Similarly, whatever user prompt we provide, that will be picked over there. So this is system prompt. Similarly, we'll create another one. Let's call it as user prompt. And user prompt, this is going to be user, and content is whatever user prompt is provided to this method. Okay, so we created two JSON objects, system, user, and now we will add it to this particular array. So the way we'll add it is this message dot put. First we'll add the system prompt, then message dot put, then we'll add the user prompt. Okay, so what we did, as of now, we just created this thing, message dot system prompt, message dot user prompt, and we want to add it to the messages object. Now we just created this array. Now we want to pass this array to the messages object. So we'll create another object where we'll add it. So for now, we'll create another JSON object, which we can call it as message. Call it as this message array. This is message array. And now over here, we'll pass message dot put. The first, the name of this is message. And then the parameter now would be this message array. Okay. And then we got this one here. Similarly, we want to create another one for model. Our model is not that important. We can pass it later also. Basically, let's just return this object, which is message object. So what this is doing is you have a method where you send it a system prompt, you send it a user prompt, and it will create basically a JSON object which is acceptable as a body for ChatGPT. Okay, what we can do is we can also try to print it. Let's just see how this is looking in the output. So okay, JSON body with the message as just like test 1, and this as a test 2. Let's just get it as a string. So JSON as a string. So basically, what we can do is so we created a message. We just need to print it. So let's run it. So this is sending message as role system content this, role user and content this. Okay, perfect. So we are getting the body at least.